I'm Tamara Thomas, editor-in-chief of UrbanHealthToday.com, part of the DocWire family of medical news sites, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Urban Health Weekly. Our goal each week is to keep you informed of the latest in health and medical news right from today's headlines. It's time to empower yourself with open conversations about your medical care with news that matters to you. So are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to Urban Health Weekly, where we talk about medical news and health topics that matter to you. I'm Tamara Thomas, and I'm here with Jackie and Lou. How are you guys?
Hey, you guys. How's it doing? I'm good over here.
I'm good also. I'm going through a little bit of withdrawal over here on my side.
Withdrawal? What are you withdrawing from?
Really?
Diet soda.
Do tell.
My diet soda, caffeine.
Oh my goodness.
Caffeine hit. Not intentional, just ran out of them. And
you ran out of diet soda.
Yes, even
who keeps multiple cans of that stuff everywhere.
Usually
do you only do caffeinated one? Is it caffeinated?
Oh, caffeine, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with the uncaffeinated kind. That wouldn't bother. That I wouldn't bother with that. So
I didn't know there was a decaffeinated soda. I didn't know that there was.
Yeah, there's certain diet sodas that are decaffeinated. Really?
Oh,
yeah. Don't bother.
That's what I know.
Yeah, that's no. But this caffeine withdrawal stuff. Like usually every morning I have my 2 cups of coffee, and that gets me going. And then after my 2 cups of coffee, I switch over to diet soda. And horrors,
I do something like that.
Yeah. I only had one, and I drank it at 9 o'clock, saying, I'll get around to going to the store. Usually I have like a fallout shelter bunker worth of diet sodas, that if the world ends, I'll have diet sodas for a lifetime. But I've been lazy lately, and I haven't bought any diet sodas. So now I am paying the price.
So I guess just turning on the tap and just getting a glass of water is not an option.
Oh God, no!
No.
Oh, that's your poor kidney are crying out.
Do you guys sync at 3 o'clock? Like 3 o'clock, 2 to 3 is a great time to have like a big old cup of tea, or back in the day for me, it was like diet soda with caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't drink tea until it's time for bed. Then I'll have some like chamomile or some valerian or something.
Oh, but
I drink water through the day.
It's not it's herbal. It's not caffeinated.
None of that caffeine.
It's not for caffeine. Oh my gosh.
No, I don't do caffeine. I think caffeine makes me crazy.
I have such a caffeine addiction. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would say it's 3 hours for me. So 3 hours after my cup of coffee, if I don't have a caffeine hit, I start to feel sluggish. And then my next 3 hour cycle, if I don't have another caffeine hit on top of the first one that I just missed, I start getting a low level headache.
Oh. True withdrawal. Look at that. Tamara is really on the right track with no caffeine. How does she do it?
I don't know. I just don't know how I'm powering through this. So I'm somewhere between sluggish and withdrawal. I've got another hour and a half withdrawal.
Yeah, I don't do caffeine at all. I just do water and tea, and that's that.
Well, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, because caffeine caffeine's not my friend. It just doesn't work for me. It makes me hyper. I can't sleep at night. I'm laying there in the bed, like staring at the ceiling, like, why can't I go to sleep? I'm clearly tired. And then I'll remember, I had that stupid decaffeinated coffee at like 1 o'clock. What was I thinking? And that's just decaffeinated, which is technically not really decaffeinated. It's just like really low caffeine. So I have a caffeine sensitivity, so I just avoid it altogether.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just get a good night's rest. That's all that's what I do. In any event, we got a lot to chat about today. So let's start with insulin. Do we like this? That Eli Lilly lowered the price of insulin?
Love it.
No.
Not enough? Novo Nordic is also lowering their price.
Yeah, but it's just like your run-of-the-mill stuff, but the really good stuff is like way up there.
What's the really good stuff?
Well, the stuff that makes you lose weight. Maybe we'll get into some.
Oh, that's a good point. The regular insulin, they don't need to hold you hostage with that anymore because They got Wegovy. They got semaglutide.
Yeah,
That's
this
right.
is like saying I'm
This is
lowering.
child's play.
Oh, are you saying it's a false flag?
That's exactly what he's saying. I hadn't given that thought at all.
Yeah, this is like me saying I'm lowering prices on 1982 Hondas. I mean, who comes? Wow, thank
Yeah,
you.
especially when you got Teslas. I get it.
I guess, for, if you're poor and all that, that's great. I mean, most people are doing the $25 are free for the most part. If you
I
can't
think it's
afford it.
$35.
So yeah, theirs is 35, I believe. If you're on Medicaid or whatever, the law just passed for $25.
I thought the law was for $35, and people were like, "Oh, that's nothing because the law says it's got to be 35 anyway."
Yeah, I don't want to sound like an elitist, so it's either 35 or 20. I know that these people knocked it down to 35.
But what if you're a young person with diabetes? Didn't they have it where you have to get like a prescription card for, like, you have to get a special savings card? Like it's not necessarily lowered. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, you got to jump through hoops and you got to do all
Okay.
things to get the $25 one. I mean, me as a guy, I would just like work
Pay
over
the extra time.
pick up bottles or something and just not to go to the regular hall, but
But if you're on a fixed income and
yeah,
you
if
don't
you're
have
on a
that
fixed
kind
income,
of,
I mean, it's good to have options, and let's say it. This is a good thing.
It's a great thing. Yes.
And that people are going to have access to this, and not only access in the United States, access worldwide. I mean, $35 may not seem like a lot here in the United States, but there's countries whose monthly incomes are $100 to $200 a month, US dollars a month. So if you've got to buy insulin in those countries and you have to pay US prices, you're in a lot of trouble.
oh wow. But you make an excellent point about the why hold on to the insulin anymore when we've got the semaglutide.
Yeah, you got
we got the designer stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
The designer stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Screw insulin.
It's like those cheap jeans you see out there. I want my designer jeans.
Got our real money makers.
Exactly.
Okay, well, what about speaking of prescription drugs, the albuterol shortage is getting worse. Have you heard of that?
Well, I just saw that article.
Well, listen to this. Children's hospitals across the country lost a supplier of a common respiratory medicine with the sudden shutdown of an Illinois manufacturing plant, which specialists warned will prolong shortages of an important treatment for kids with RSV and asthma who show up in emergency rooms. Acorn, a company that has struggled under bankruptcy for 2 years and had been the subject of FDA enforcement actions, shut down its U.S. operations on Thursday, including manufacturing facilities in Illinois, New Jersey, and New York. Its Illinois facility was licensed to make liquid albuterol, which is used by hospitals for nebulizers, common devices that turn medicine into mist to be inhaled. The shutdown of that plant leaves one remaining domestic supplier of liquid albuterol, supply chain analysts and executives said, although another pharmacy supplier is racing to build a second supply. The FDA has had the medicine on its shortage list since last fall. Hospitals have been able to manage the issue thus far, and patients have not been affected directly as they were when the coronavirus caused the shortage of asthma inhalers in 2020. Yet health system leaders say it is another example of the fragile domestic supply of vital generic drugs, a problem that was exacerbated by the pandemic and continues in multiple types of medicines. Profit margins are so low on some generic drugs that they have few manufacturers, so a single failure can have a big impact on the health system, experts say. Whoa. That's bad. We're going to keep an eye on that situation.
I mean, it could be dangerous for kids. I mean, that's
could be dangerous.
Not only that, I think older adults, it could hurt them too. It's not only kids, I think, that take it.
Well, right. If a lot of asthmatics rely on albuterol, but if you just imagine if you are low income and you don't have a steady supply, a doctor supplying you with albuterol, and you go to the emergency room because you're having a severe asthma attack, and the emergency room doesn't have it, or they have to ration it.
Right.
That's horrible.
Right.
Children could die.
And you would think that there's certain staples that
I'm curious what the FDA, what their crackdown on this facility was, on this Acorn. But you were saying?
well, I was saying that certain staples just you take for granted that you're always going to find them in the supermarket. You know, it's almost like milk and juice. Like you know, you don't say, "Do you have milk there today?" You just go there on the assumption that it's there, and it's just amazing that it would be gone.
Well, some supermarkets are pulling eggs because the eggs have just gotten so expensive that they can't even pass it on to consumers, so they're just not carrying eggs.
Right.
So that is becoming
Well,
a reality.
That's on the inflation side, and yeah, I get it. That
I mean, have you ever thought you would see a day when you go to a supermarket and they don't have eggs because eggs are too expensive?
I don't.
No.
We just had the last article was that insulin is now $35. I
Right.
don't know how much it costs to manufacture insulin.
I'm sure it's
But,
less than $35.
I'm sure it is too, but I'm also wondering whether sometimes price controls don't take into consideration how much things cost. And I'm not talking about how much the ingredients cost. I'm talking about how much things cost to manufacture.
Okay.
Which total cost and ingredient cost are two completely different things. So, for example, I can say, oh, this omelet that I'm eating at the restaurant, it's 2 eggs, three whatevers, or I'll use one best, smoothies or veggie juice. The other day we were pricing out, I remember we were pricing out veggie juices and saying, okay, they use 7 carrots, 2 apples, 1 beet, 1 piece of this. So their ingredients, all organic, cost $7, but they're selling to me for $10. So blah blah blah. Okay, that's cool. But how much does the employee make? How much is it for the plastic cup? How much is it for that place? How much is their insurance? How much is their electricity?
Oh, and their transport.
Well, yeah, in accounting, it's a term of your fully loaded cost to make 1 unit, and your fully loaded cost, and there's also things called cost transfer, blah blah blah. But your fully loaded cost to make a unit may be a lot of money, because you got to keep a plant going, and the plant has HR people, you got to pay them, and you have safety officers and all those things. So when you look at the cost to do something, you can't only look at the ingredients. Because if you look at the ingredients and say, yeah, they're making a bundle, but when you start looking at thin margins, then there's that. So another thing the government has to do is, if they are going to put cost controls on things, they have to really take a strong look at what is the cost of manufacturing this thing. Well, people are just going to say, see ya, and not do it, because the government itself manufactures nothing. Everything is done by private industry.
How much is subsidized by the government?
Hardly anything.
Just the R&D is subsidized indirectly.
Well, the R&D was many, many years ago. I don't think drugs like
Right, on insulin.
Right,
Yeah,
insulin,
and albuterol, right.
these are old drugs. So, I don't think.
Well, do they get some kind of benefit or goodwill from doing the favor of manufacturing, low profit margin drugs that are essential?
Well, what does I'll touch on it right now. What does happen is the government does have some incentives for orphan drugs, for things of that nature, in terms of helping. And by orphan drugs, these are drugs that only serve, let's say, 25,000 people for conditions that are very, very, very rare. So there are some subsidies or grants available for that. But for the most part, no, drug development is not subsidized by the government at all.
Well, that's not.
We've had this discussion before.
Yeah, but
well, no, for these particular drugs, because they've been around so darn long, and there's no like really new formulas of them coming out, I'll buy that. But in general, the government does have some hand in R&D. The money does ultimately come from the government.
No.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Oh, We've had this
we really
discussion
need to-
before. I remember
we
that.
really need to-
Yeah.
The government, the money does not come from the government.
I said ultimately comes from the government. It doesn't
No.
come directly. Okay,
It
let's.
does not.
I'm not prepared for this
Oh, now
argument.
we're gonna have a commercial? 'Cause you
I-
didn't-
I'm not having a commercial. I'm just saying that we're gonna move on because you and I are gonna get tangled up in this, and I'm not prepared with my notes in front of me to like read you the riot act.
No,
So
the NIH.
we're gonna
funds
move
nothing.
on. We're going to move on because that's not true. We just talked about this like some weeks ago, how
Yeah.
what was that drug? I forgot what drug it was. It was the drug, the Alzheimer's drug.
Oh,
How that
Aduhelm?
was bought from one company and then another company bought it from that company, but that was originally created and funded by the government. It was funded by government dollars. Yes, it was. And I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna look for it and then
And
we're
prove
gonna
me
talk about it.
wrong,
Yes, we're talking,
and
we're
put it
gonna,
on the website.
Look at him. He's bebopping and scatting. Like, be careful. Like,
he's trying to
Move.
throw me off.
He's tap
He's
dancing.
trying to-
Let's go.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
He's
it's
trying to, he's-
I'm throwing out microaggressions. Like,
okay.
over the-
Where, you know what? I'm gonna be prepared next time because I didn't expect you to tell that little fib, but I'm gonna be next time we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna make sure to have my stuff in front of me. I'm not prepared today, but
And then she's going to let you have it.
that's right. I'm gonna let you have it. I am going to let you have it. So we're gonna move on and we're gonna talk about should we talk about Silicon Valley Bank since you brought it up?
Might as well throw it out there,
Okay.
but it'll only prove me right. But go ahead.
Ah,
Now, how is that? Okay, before I start, just tell me how that's going to prove you right. Oh, by the way, the reason we're even talking about it is because, as many of you probably know, Silicon Valley Bank basically went belly up, and the government had to bail them out because depositors, rushed onto the bank and withdrew all their money.
Do you want me to go through?
Yes,
why
go through
collapse
the-
and
yeah.
Yes,
All right,
but
so
try to make it short.
I can
if
never
you
make it
can,
short, but we
I
have
know,
plenty of
that's
time.
true.
We're actually have plenty of time. So
So I don't know if we have plenty of time,
y-
but
you know,
try to make
I-
it short
I
and sweet.
have researched this
And try to make
and
it
fact
it as lay as possible.
This is gonna be really easy.
I know
Okay.
you're not capable of doing lay
Okay.
discussion, but let's try.
Silicon Valley Bank is actually a very important bank. I'll throw out some names that we all know. Roku had $500,000 in deposit at Silicon Valley Bank.
Oh my God.
Silicon
Wow.
Valley Bank was a financier of a lot of tech startups in the country.
Mhm.
They've done exceptionally amount of good work. They also have funded a lot of biotechnology firms.
That's it, biotech.
And these firms, the way these firms work is they'll get a big grant, let's say. Our editor-in-chief here will say from the government, but it's not only from the government that the grant comes from. The grants also come from companies like Pfizer, all of those, and they're held in the bank, and they're used to make payroll, they're used to make purchases, et cetera, et cetera. So the way these biotech companies they'll raise $100 million from various sources, and then they apply themselves to create a drug using this money. Many tech companies work the same way. They are single-minded. They have a product that they're trying to bring to market. There's no money coming in, but while they're doing it, they get to pay people, they get to keep the doors open, et cetera, et cetera. Silicon Valley Bank was where all this money was kept. It was doing a great thing. It was helping these companies. In 2015, Silicon Valley Bank, because there's been a lot of political, this party did it and that party did it. Silicon Valley Bank went to Barack Obama, and I believe rightfully so said, hey, look, we're doing this great public service. We're funding technological growth. All these regulations that we did in 2008 because of the bank, they shouldn't really apply to a small regional bank. We can do better without so much regulation. They got a dispensation. Then in 2018, many other small regional banks went and said, hey, we're going to do this too. We got to do this too. If they're getting it, we should do it. Why are they special? Blah, blah, blah. And then another group of things, this time under the Trump administration, they got relief. They also got another level of relief there. So all of these banks, small banks, were not being regulated the way the big banks are. So that was red flag or yellow flag number one. You expect them to be responsible.
But the biggest drag on SVB was that depositors wanted their money back.
Well,
And so they had to sell
here's
assets
The next thing that happened,
at a
the
loss.
next thing that happened is
They had to sell
where
assets at a
they
loss.
fell asleep at the wheel is they had a lot of their deposits. When that money came in, they deposited this money in bonds, which were only paying 2%. And when the interest rates started going up, their bonds they didn't sell the bonds and buy new bonds that were paying more. So they weren't flipping their bonds over and over again. It's kind of complicated, but bonds get flipped all the time, and they get sold and they get bought, and you get money for them.
KISS. Keep it simple,
I'm
sir.
keeping it simple. Anyway, they didn't do this. Whether they were fooling around, they also started investing in long shots. And that's where the environmental stuff comes. Some of these companies that they were investing in or holding the money or holding the loans for were companies that were going to pay out, let's say, products that are not going to be able to come to market for 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden, they started getting cash crunched. Now, when they got cash crunched, what happened? Social media, because social media picks these things up, and everybody knew about it. In fact, they didn't even have a chance. If they would have had another 24 hours, the crisis would have been averted. They would have converted their bonds to cash. Anybody who wanted cash, they had plenty of cash. But what happened is because of social media, people showed up at the bank.
And because of the interest rates going up.
Well, the interest rates went up.
It was a perfect storm.
Yeah, perfect storm for them. And then once that happened, they would have had the money, except that you had this massive run on the bank because of social media. Now what's the problem then was all of this biotech money, all this drug discovery money was locked up in this bank. And what's going to happen now? Fortunately, the government did step in. All right, I'm going to give the government a couple of props. They did step in. The FDIC has plenty of money. And they were able to prop up this bank and make sure that this did not happen. A sister bank, First Republic, started having problems, and that was propped up by the banking industry itself, where JP Morgan, Bank of America, and all others each pledged $5 billion and deposited the money so that the bank was solvent for a few days and could do what it needed to do, meaning turn its non-cash assets into cash or other more liquid type things. So that was the story there. And we're seeing repercussions of that because once confidence goes, things go bad.
So now what's going to happen with all of these startups that relied on, what's going to happen when their loans come due? What's going to happen with new businesses? What's going to happen now that there's no SVB?
I can answer that two ways. I could say the textbook answer is absolutely nothing. Everything is guaranteed. Everybody's got money. Everything is good.
Because the government said so? Because the government's been giving the money?
The government doesn't even have to say so. There's plenty of money there to make sure because the regulations are still in place. The truer answer is what happens when your significant other is mad at you? All sorts of bad things happen. You can say sorry, you can say this, you can say that, but grief is going to happen. And that's what we're going through now. We're going through a lot of grief. And it's not having to do with reality. It's having to do with perception. It's having to do with lack of confidence. And if people don't trust something, guess what? They ain't putting their money there.
So, but the question, getting back to our intent and purpose is what's going to happen? I've got a new product that I want to bring to the market. I've got a new biotech. Where am I going to get the money now?
Well, if the confidence is not there to deposit this money in the banks, then the confidence may not be there for you to get that loan.
So in other words, they're not going to be giving that kind of money
There's
anymore.
not going to be giving
and
that
so
kind
that's
of money.
what.
So if you had a company that was going on, your money's safe, everything is good. However, it's lack of confidence. It's that future lack of confidence. And I was using the metaphor of a relationship, but you can use the metaphor of an employee. You can use the metaphor of your gardener messing up something, or you go to a store and they do something. Or a mechanic that does a repair but does a shoddy job. Once you lose that confidence with somebody, do you come back to them? Or is that place gonna be able to do business the way it was? And right now, the answer is not yet.
Maybe not ever.
Maybe not.
Where
ever.
are those startups going to go? Nowhere.
Well,
Nowhere. Well, there isn't anyone else that's doing it unless
I
someone
see.
comes in and takes their place. But I mean, I don't know. They're just going to languish like yesteryear.
Well,
So the way this affects the consumer, Tamara, is this what you're saying? I'm just gonna hedge a guess. Are you saying there's not going to be newer startups for medical devices, biotech? You're concerned that this is going to affect consumers pretty soon. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not concerned that it's going to affect consumers. You mean it's consumers of biotech? Is that what you mean?
Or no, I mean eventually patients.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think 3 to 5 years down the road,
It
we're gonna
is-
have a
Okay.
Right. It is
Okay.
going to stall advancements in medicine. That's
Okay.
what I'm worried about. So
Okay.
that's why we went through this whole thing of talking about
Yeah.
Now I'm understanding. Well, it was so interesting.
Professor Louis over here is like giving us a whole lecture on the banking.
Well, now I understand more about how the bank failed.
This crap, that's a lot.
Say again, Jackie, what were you saying?
Well, it gave me more of an idea of how, the bank, sort of failed or pretty much almost failed.
Yeah. And look, the interest rates, the way they are, I mean, if you're going for a mortgage, which is, traditionally the safest investment a bank can make, because they're only lending you 80% of the value of the house, and they can always take it away, take it back. So they, in essence, it's very hard for them to lose money. If mortgages are at 7.5%, can you imagine what a biotech firm is going to start paying on new loans? I'm not talking about the money that's out there already. I'm talking about a new loan and what's going to happen there. And that's
And a lot of these things are so expensive to begin with. And then you add these high interest rates on top of it. It's going to be completely out of the average person's reach.
Right. And you're absolutely right. And, before I was talking about transfer pricing and all that. And now I'm glad this segment came next, because now I'm going to kind of close the loop on that. The stuff, the compounds and all that is not that much. It's the interest rate that you paid for all of this. It's all of this nonsense that goes on in order. Now, if you're going to throw another extra 5 or 10% of interest on top of things, that's going to be costs that's going to be moved on into the future. So these future drugs that are going to come out are going to have that, that backpack of weight behind them that say, hey, this cost me yada, yada, yada to produce and to discover. So you're not going to get it for $25. So that's kind of where we are right now. This is not in a good place, and this is going to affect us in the pocket later on.
Yeah.
In the medical side, and it's also going to affect us with having less choices.
Yeah. I think the average person looks at this and says, well, it's some bank. What do I care? That doesn't have any effect on me, but it does ultimately have an effect on you. If God forbid you get sick and you need, access to some sort of treatment that isn't just living on somebody's mind or somebody's patent and is not being brought to market. So that's just something to think about. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And we're back. And Professor Lewis was giving us a further airful in the banking, because once you get him started with this stuff, there is just no stopping him. So let's move on to this week's
Unfortunately,
topic.
during the commercial break, I just wouldn't stop talking, so to be lost.
So I had to come back just to get him to stop. But thank you, Lou. We appreciate the treatise there. All right, so today we're going to talk about, well, not all things obesity, but some things obesity. All right, so let's jump in. We're familiar with the Ozempic shortage, or there was a shortage of Ozempic. They're finally back on the market now. It's back in stock, right?
Wow.
Well, no, it is. As of March 17th or something like that.
It's back in stock, but it's hard to get.
Well, it was always hard to get. I mean, it really, unless you're like rich or a celebrity, it's hard to get.
$1,500 a month.
Well,
And that's with insurance, so.
Is that for the diabetics or that's for
it's
non-diabetics?
supposed to be for diabetics and obese,
Right.
primarily for diabetics.
What do you-
All right.
But
Because I know people who have diabetes.
if
who are on
you're
it.
a
Okay.
Hollywood celebrity,
Yeah, you
you
get
need
it.
to lose weight for a role, you're getting it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you if you're just like some Main Street schmuck and you have diabetes, then you can't get it. Tough break. You know, Chelsea Handler needs to get some because she's got a show coming up. You know what I mean? Like it's you just gotta step back. So many people in means get prescribed this drug, and that's what created the shortage. If you're diabetic with regular insurance, you're out in the cold. I mean, that it's just what it is, you know. But Chelsea Handler and other celebrities, they talk openly about using the semaglutide to lose weight. So apparently it's like a big Hollywood thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's where you get Ozempic face, right? That's what everybody's talking about lately.
Well, that's I mean, you get Ozempic face from using Ozempic, but I'm saying that people who have, oh yeah, we did talk about that. People who have used
Yeah.
Ozempic and lost a significant amount of weight, be they a celebrity or otherwise, do get that sagging face. But I'm just saying that the reason that there was a shortage of Ozempic is because there was such a run on the drug, because if you have money, if you're rich and famous, you're going to get it a lot more easily. The average person is going to get insulin, which, as Lou was pointing out earlier, now insulin is cheaper. It's like, we don't need to bulk up the price of insulin. And when you can have the insulin pauper, we've got
Well, I real Pepsi.
it's like,
Peon, have this.
we've got our cash cow. Exactly. Peons have this cheap insulin. You go ahead. We've got our royal semaglutide, you know, with our royal following, making us buku dollars. We don't need your insulin dollars anymore. We don't need to fleece you anymore. So that's what happened there. So it's back in stock, but for a while you couldn't get it if you were taking
Well,
it.
if I remember.
Not that insurance is very keen on spending that kind of money every month anyway. And by the way, did you know that once you stop, you start to gain back the weight again?
Well, it's an appetite suppressant.
Yes.
It makes you feel like you're full. So
Yes.
it doesn't really suppress your appetite. It just makes you feel like you're full, and you don't realize, you don't feel the need to eat. However, once it goes away, you're going to have that old need to eat. So unless you've consciously gotten rid of
The reasons that you were
reasons why
overeating
you
to
were
begin
eating,
with.
like for me personally, I can maintain weight for 2, 3, 4, 5 years unless something adverse happens where I just can't. Like,
And
Two,
then
three,
it only
4, 5
takes
years
2
is
months.
pretty good. But yeah, something always comes up.
talking about our outtakes. Our outtakes. Maybe we should have our outtakes like they do it on Iron Man or something like that. But we were talking about our outtakes. We were talking about this drug 2, 3 weeks ago, and I think during one of the commercials, I said, "I think I'm gonna take this thing." This and I think one of you two told me, "Do you even know the side effects?" And I go,
I think
"Nah."
that was me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was Tamara.
Oh, no, so I read the side effects, and they worried me for about a week. And then I said, "You know what? I don't care about the side effects. I'm gonna take it anyway." Then I found out about the
Jesus.
price and the big side effect, and I said, "Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that." You know.
So that was the deciding
that was my
factor.
side effect, that it cost, that at the time it cost $1,500 a month. I don't know where the prices are.
I wonder
Wow.
how much of it insurance covers. I
I
wonder what the
believe that's
copay.
after insurance.
You kidding me? That's the price after insurance?
That's what the blogs were saying, and that's why, because I started researching the side effects, and then there was this whole thing on the financial side effects, and I said, "Let me read this thing." And all of a sudden, I had to pay all this
Being a
money.
finance type of guy.
Look, I just said maybe being fat ain't so bad. I mean, if I
Wow.
gotta pay that kind of
Feels
money.
cost effective.
What?
The
It felt cost effective.
does feeling fat is that cost effective?
No. You know,
Well, you're saying that $1,500 is not a justifiable amount for what you want. That's the stopping point for you.
well, for me,
Not
if
the
I was a
terrible-
Hollywood
Not the
celebrity,
terrible
it's
side
like-
effects.
that's like tit money, you know, or whatever. I guess.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a multimillionaire, then it's really
Yeah, if
nothing.
you're rolling it, but what's another $1,500?
Isn't that SAG insurance really good insurance? So it probably pays a lot more. I doubt they're spending the
I
actual
don't know. You know,
1,500
I read
out
a
of their
couple of
pocket.
things. I haven't really researched it that much. I will research. I promise. I promise our listeners that I'm going to we'll research it and we'll
I'm
get back to
curious
it.
what blogs you were reading for this information. I'd like to stalk those blogs and see what
It
what's
really
happening
went
too.
downhill really quickly. It went really unscientific really quickly. This was not
I'm still curious what people had to say about it.
Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I mean, if that's what you
I mean,
call
were there
doing
any
your research,
success stories? Were there people
Yeah,
like, well,
almost everybody's saying I lost a lot of weight.
over how long? What was the average?
Oh, I think after 3 to 4 weeks. In fact, I was reading a blog, a doctor. She was an endocrinologist and she kept a blog, a daily like diary of what was happening. She said she was going to try it. And she said that before she recommended it to any patients. And I'm sorry, I lost a link. But before she recommended it to any patient, she would do it. And she did a week by week. I lost this amount, I lost this amount. And it was on her blog where she said, I just got my first bill for 1,800. I am not going to keep doing this.
1,800. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not
Wow.
long, but I think once I lose this weight, I just want to lose another 5 pounds and then I'm going to be strong. And then the blog ended because we got to real time.
Wow. Well, I was reading an interesting article. This was a nurse, and she went on Ozempic and she lost the weight, but as soon as she stopped taking the Ozempic, the weight started creeping right back up. But what she did
Hearing
was,
that, yeah.
but what she did was she realized that she had to maintain the habits, so she changed the way she ate.
Right.
She incorporated much more plants into her diet. She went for regular walks. She just completely changed her lifestyle. She didn't rest on her laurels and continue the lifestyle she was living that caused her to turn to the Ozempic to begin with, which begs the question, shouldn't she have done that to begin with? I mean, I'm glad that Ozempic, and
Maybe
she
it
said she did have
inspired her.
nausea. And she said she did have a lot of nausea while she was taking the Ozempic, but she said she didn't say what she did, but she said she had ways to counter it. That's all she said. I'm thinking she probably did ginger or something like that, but because she's a nurse, she can't say that in an article. In any event, if you chew pieces of ginger or you drink ginger tea, but mostly if you chew pieces of ginger is very good for nausea. In any event, she said that what she had to do was she did put back on some weight, but not enough that she felt that it was a failure because she completely changed her diet. And so I'm glad that she had a drug like Ozempic to help jumpstart her, her weight loss journey. But couldn't she have just done that to begin with? I mean, it would have taken longer, but couldn't she have saved herself some money? I don't know. That's my whole thing. My thing is if you do the work to begin with, then you don't have to worry about coming up with that kind of money. I mean, she probably also had very good insurance. I don't know, because she didn't talk about the price. But it just begs the question, don't you think, Jackie?
Well, it turns out I know a bunch of people who are on those but they all have diabetes, and I just got off a cruise. Mm-hmm. And I gained weight, of course, which is what you do on a cruise. But I fasted and got off it. I did like a healthy fasting mimicking diet for a while, and I took off a few pounds. But the people that I do know that were on like Ozempic and that kind of thing, some of them lost weight on a cruise. I don't know if it's inspiring people to if that helps jumpstart them and then they develop good habits, if that's a possibility. But otherwise, you have to be on it the rest of your life if you don't change your habits.
If you don't change your habits, this is a lifetime. It's like that. What's that hair drug that you have to take? Otherwise, you start losing weight. God, what is it
Rogaine.
called? Rogaine, thank you. It's like Rogaine. If you stop the Rogaine, that hair is going to start disappearing. You got to stay on Rogaine for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't think this is quite like that because
of course it is.
Well,
wait a minute.
She's
maybe make it happen.
But if you've got the willpower, remember, once you lose
she did gain back some weight.
Once you lose that
But
weight,
that's, yeah, I mean, but she came out in a net, in a net gain in terms of like winning out against the weight gain, right? She
Right, but
came
that was
out with
because she
still 20
changed
pounds
but
down.
that was because she changed her lifestyle and she changed her diet.
But
I
aren't
don't
we
think
doing
all
that
things
thing?
are
It's a
equal.
tool in the toolbox. It's a tool in the toolbox, and it
One
helps you
would
get
think,
there.
but
and
I'm
it
not
helps
sure
change your
that
habit.
I don't think that most people think that way. And I'm not sure that people are being
Because I'm
counseled
sure
properly.
I'm sure there's this feeling of like hopelessness when you get like really, really obese, that a lot of people have that feeling. And then maybe this gives you some hope that there's such a thing as weight loss. And then maybe then you're inspired. I don't know. I don't feel so judgy about it. I feel like okay about it, actually.
Well, it's
That
not
you do that.
judgy. It's you think I'm being judgy? Well, that's
Oh,
okay.
but-
It's not judgy. It's I like I said, I'm glad that she had that to jumpstart, but I'm glad that she changed her lifestyle and she's not relying on it.
Right. That's right. I see
Which
what you're
begs
saying.
the
Yes.
question, could she have done that to begin with? I don't think that's judgy. I think that's like it's a real question.
Yeah, but look, having been
It
on
would
the
have
other
taken
side-
longer.
Having been on the other side, and I'm not talking about, extreme amounts of weights. I'm talking about 10 to 15 pounds more than my optimum.
Because she did, Jackie said she was fasting. Fasting is very difficult.
Yeah, but I live my
Yeah,
life.
but I know other people who do that, and they can't maintain it. Like, it took me a really long time to like be able to learn how to fast. And I don't know, what if you have low blood sugar naturally? I don't know that it's always available to you, or if you have diabetes, like with insulin. I don't know. I don't know what the fasting does.
I live my life usually about 10 to 15
Yeah, I don't think
pounds
this is for type 1 diabetes.
over my optimum.
Mhm.
And recently I've gone to about 25 pounds over my optimum weight. And what happens there is you start getting joint pains. Your knees hurt. So you start not doing things, not activity-based things. So
Yeah.
going on a walk, in the back of your mind is, damn, my feet are gonna hurt. Or after X amount of steps, you just say, I'm in pain. You look at your backyard, and normally you'd be out there for an hour cutting down stuff and getting it ready for the spring, and you only spend 20 minutes, and you start finding excuses not to do things. But the real issue is that it hurts. You find excuses to print upstairs and not go downstairs, or there's so many little things that a person will do that I know I personally do when I'm a little overweight, that I don't normally do if I'm not that overweight, that are non-activity based. And it's all of these little things, and they add up the calories. So it's a lifestyle thing. But I do feel that once those pounds come off, the knee pain goes away. It just, to me, it's by magic. Once I hit a certain number on the scale, the knee pain just vanishes like by magic.
Mhm.
The back pain starts to go away. I'm much more willing than to go for a walk because my knees don't hurt. If your knees hurt, no matter what, it's not going to be a fun thing. You're not going to want to do it. You'll do it if you have to do it, but you won't do it, 4 times a week. Maybe you'll do it twice a week. So what I'm saying is activity breeds activity. Also, when you have less weight, you sleep better. As you're sleeping better, you're getting more oxygen while you're sleeping. You're metabolizing better. With the more oxygen, you're burning fat a lot more efficiently. So all of these things, if you take all these things and add them up and put them all on top of each other, you're dealing with, there is a reason why if you lose the weight, you might be able to keep it off. However, the bottom line is
You have to start losing the weight.
you have to start losing. Something like this is that little boost that you need sometimes. It's like pushing that car, that little boost that you need just to get it rolling. So for me, it would be worth it like that.
Well, when you explain it like that, that makes a lot of sense, just in terms of, getting yourself started.
Right. Because I know that I'm
like a jump start, like
Yeah,
that lady is doing.
40 pounds right now, and I'm a pretty tall guy, so people look at it and say, but 240 is still 240 on your knees, and my knees hurt. My knees will hurt on anything over 225. So if I can get rid of these 15 pounds and then donate them to charity or whatever, and get them off of me. I know that a lot of things that I can do, a lot of the yard work I can do, a lot of the stuff that I can do, I will start doing it. I'll find like the joy of doing it all of a sudden. But right now it's a chore because it hurts.
I'm not anti-Ozempic. I just think that, and I guess it's easy in my position to say it because I'm not obese and not overweight. But I will say that I maybe I sound like a purist or whatever, but I feel like the lasting change comes from lifestyle change. That's all. That's all. But you make a very strong case for the jump start. I just think $1,500 is a heck of a lot of jump start.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And there's also what happens when it's done. And I don't know. I haven't injected
You mean
myself.
like what are you going to do when you're ready to stop? Like when
Yeah.
you've lost the optimal weight and you
Yeah,
feel
what
like,
happens?
okay.
Like, am I gonna like crave pizzas every 7 seconds? I mean, where's my
But then
mind?
that takes you back to what I was saying. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
once
that's what you were saying. Yeah, that you have to change your lifestyle. Is this going to help you change your lifestyle?
right. And so it feels kind of chicken egg for me because at some point you have to change your lifestyle. Either you're going to stay on this thing for the rest of your life, or you're going to make some changes to your lifestyle and embrace a lifestyle that is conducive to weight loss, to
Right.
permanent weight loss.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, again, I guess it's easier for me to say, but I just think that long term,
Right.
people who have been successful with long-term weight loss, it hasn't been because of some drug and it hasn't been because of some fad diet. It's because they put in the work. That's all. That's all. I'm not saying that Ozempic is, but I think if you're going to do something like semaglutide, let's not say Ozempic because, if you're going to do something like semaglutide, I think there also needs to be a discussion alongside that saying, look, you also need to make changes to your lifestyle, to your diet.
Yep.
And I think, the doctors who prescribe it sort of say it tangentially, but
Right.
they don't really make it concrete for people. And they say, yeah, and they got it. And they start like, woohoo, I'm losing all this weight and I look great, but then they don't know what to do.
Right. And
when they get to the point that they want to be at.
When we had that shutdown and I had to stop going to the gym and all that, I gained 15 pounds. And it took me a year and a half to lose those 15 pounds. And
It's really hard to lose weight in the long run.
Yep.
By the way, do you know that obesity passes from mothers to daughters, but not from mothers or fathers to sons?
What? Let me see that.
Yes, they did a study and they showed that young daughters, I think they started at age 4, they pick up their mother's habits and their BMI is similar to their mother's BMI.
Wait, their mother's BMI while
so if your mommy's
pregnant?
If you're a little girl, no, not
Okay.
just pregnant, just in general.
Okay.
If your mommy is obese or overweight, as a little girl, you're going to be obese or overweight.
Well,
but the same effect doesn't happen.
Probability. You're not you don't you're not. There's a much higher probability that you will be obese. That doesn't mean that.
Wait, is this while it like what? Let's say your mom wasn't obese before she had you, and then she's obese after she had you. Are you more likely, like, when is the obesity supposed to take place? Or they didn't make it that like fine tooth?
They did. I read the study. It has to do with the mom's eating habits. I guess I'm getting to the. It has to do with the mom's eating habits. So it's whatever state the mother's at now. If the mother was obese when she was younger and now she's thin, the child will not pick up on those habits.
At ages 6 to 7 and ages 8 to 9, BMI and fat mass of the girls reflected that of their mothers. Oh. At age 4, BMI and fat mass of the daughters tended to be associated with that of their mothers.
Wow. But not for sons? And what about fathers?
There were no significant mother-son, father-son, or father-daughter associations for BMI or fat mass at each of the 3 studied ages. Just mothers and daughters.
Wow.
But that makes sense to me because, you know, when you're
Because
a
it's
little one,
modeling good habits.
it's modeling habits, good or bad.
Right.
You know, and when, you know, when you're a little girl, your mommy's everything, right? I remember Padma Lakshmi, you know Padma Lakshmi, right? She was
Oh
that
yeah,
model,
sure.
Top Chef. She wrote an op-ed about she would go during the season. So like during the season, she'd gain all this weight from eating all of this delicious food, right? And then
Oh
off
yeah.
season, she'd go on a diet to get back to her model size. And she noticed that her little girl, she was just a little one when this happened, started doing the same thing, saying, "Oh, I'm watching my figure. Oh, I know I don't want to eat that. I'm watching what I eat," modeling her mother's behavior off season. And so what she did was she stopped doing that and she just embraced the size that she was because she didn't want to pass that on to her daughter, which her daughter was picking up. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Because
Yes.
little girls watch their mothers and pick up on what their mothers do. If their mother's having an extra helping, they're having an extra helping. If their mommy's having foods that are highly inflammatory, they're having foods that are highly inflammatory. So it makes sense to me.
Wow. Let me think about that for my childhood. Yeah. Well, we didn't eat that much processed foods when we were living abroad. And then we came to the US and I would sneak Twinkies. I remember that, like as a teen. But I also, you know, when I was younger, I didn't have a weight issue at all.
Wait, your parents
So,
kept Twinkies in the house or did you buy them after school and hide them?
no, later when we moved to the US, so like when I was a tween, my one brother was like always overly thin and he was always like he was also like a finicky eater, whereas I was not at all a finicky eater. And I guess my mom worried that he was gonna like not put on any weight and that he was like too thin. So she would stock and like she would stock with like cookies or like all his favorites.
Oh,
And like he would like eat a few and then I'd sneak in and like eat all of them. Like that
oh,
was
wow.
I was
But
terrible
that
because he
sounds
was
like
there.
something different going on there.
Yeah, it's just complicated, but she didn't per se overeat. I mean, we always had like a you know 3 square meals and they were cooked at home. Like we always had that, you know. But
Mhm,
once I started getting into the super processed foods with
mhm.
their availability, and that maybe that was there, but I think like I avoided a lot of you know that early obesity because I wasn't obese or anything as a child. So, I mean, what do you think? What did you see? Did your
When I
mom
was
model good
growing up,
habits?
well, my mom was, she wasn't naturally an overweight person, but my dad wanted her to be overweight, so he always kind of overfed us all. Yeah, because
Ah,
you know, that whole Jamaican aesthetic of like the mompi,
okay.
you know, the big,
Okay.
and so he always overfed us all, and it just wasn't healthy for her, and it certainly wasn't. I couldn't do it. I mean, my stomach just didn't stretch to those capacities with like 2 full
Wow.
plates of food, and I would always throw away the extra food and try to hide it in the garbage because I couldn't eat it. And
Oh, you did not clean your plate or like you
no, I
hid the
couldn't.
fact that
It
did.
was physically not possible for
Oh,
me to clean
I
my plate.
I was a clean, I like over I could not like get enough, but my siblings didn't eat the way I did. Like I really was like a big eater right from the get-go. So you would hide the fact that
I
you
would
didn't
hide
finish
the
your
food.
plate.
That's correct because I just couldn't. It was physically not possible for me to do it. So I would hide it and I would like remove garbage from the top, throw the food in, and then put the garbage on top of it so that he didn't see that I was
Oh
throwing it
my
away.
gosh.
I didn't want to put it on the top for him to see. We'd get in big trouble. So yeah, so it was
Oh.
interesting dynamics. And then for a while I went through this phase when I got older of like feeling guilty about not eating everything. And then one day I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm making myself overweight. This is terrible. I feel terrible. And I just let it go. I was just like, I can't do this to myself anymore. I've got to forgive myself. Children in Africa are still going to starve, you know, because at the time it was like, people are starving in Africa.
Oh yeah, we used to all get that at home, right? Like
Yeah. And so I was just like, they're gonna still starve. There's nothing that I could do about that. I can't eat all of this food.
whoa, that's some story.
So there was no opportunity for emulation or anything like that. I know that my little one is always telling me that she wants to be like me and she wants to look like me and all this other stuff because she's lighter than I am. And she's like, I want to be brown like you, mommy. Or she's like, well, I want a body like yours. And it's like, patience, child. You're gonna have a better body than me when you get better, when you get older. Like you'll be fine. Just give yourself time, you know. But
Patience, child.
yeah, from my experience as a mom, not so much as a daughter, I see the wisdom in that. Not the wisdom, but I see how that can happen.
Back to your reason for developing good, healthy habits.
While they're young, because they take them with them.
That
Lou, do you want to weigh
I'll
in
take
here
the
at
bait.
all?
I'm not going to say anything. I could say we're almost out of time, but
Well, but we have to talk about one last thing, built environment. Are you familiar with that term? That's basically what your neighborhood is like. So if you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have parks and has a lot of fast food joints around, the tendency is that you're going to have a higher BMI than if you live in a neighborhood that has lots of parks and less fast food joints. So that's in a nutshell what built environment is.
Right.
And apparently it's the leading contributor to obesity more than any other
What?
social determinant of health.
Really? So that's like my mom bringing in the special cookies and stuff like that are in the closet when I'm between and I can't stay away from it.
Well,
Is
it's
that what
more
it
like
is?
if you're
You have
no,
nothing else
it's more like-
available.
right.
Yeah,
It's like if
like
you
what's
live in a
happening to it?
neighborhood, if you live in a neighborhood and your nearest place to get something is a bodega that has like hero sandwiches and patties and chips and
And
soda, that's the kind of stuff you're gonna eat. You're
I
gonna
wonder if that also becomes your like nostalgic food, because what's nostalgia other than like the food you ate as a kid? Like, I wonder if that's like that stays with you. Like you always have a taste for it. Like it has like an emotional component. If
well,
you
you
grew
do,
up
but a
early
lot of
on.
people, but you do to some extent. But I think a lot more people are influenced by what's around them. So if you're
Okay.
surrounded by Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Burger
It's
King,
just
Taco
normal.
Bell, that's the stuff that you're going to eat because that's the stuff that that you have access to, that's available, that's on your way home or on your way to work.
Yeah.
Versus if you live in an area that has family-owned type restaurants that have a different kind of food. Or if you live in a neighborhood that's just pure buildings and no parks, you're not going to get exercise the way someone who lives in a neighborhood that has multiple parks are going to have.
Back to that idea of like having some green zones within a
Yeah.
city. Otherwise,
exactly.
it's not.
Building. Yeah. Did I tell you I have this neighbor, when she first moved into the neighborhood, she was normal size. And now she's obese and she's got all these health problems and she uses a cane to
What?
walk and ankle
Oh.
braces. It's terrible. But you know what? She's always ordering from the local pizza place because it's like down the block. It's
I
convenient.
wonder if it ends up being cheaper too, in a weird way. Like not
It's not
health-wise,
really cheaper if you think about it,
just
but
convenience food.
but convenience wise, you think it's cheaper. But I bet you if you did the math, it's actually much more expensive than having groceries delivered. Because I think all supermarkets do delivery, if you have the food delivered. But then also you have to have a knowledge of like what's healthy and what's not healthy. And I think I think a lot of municipalities, especially lower income municipalities, do a really bad job of informing people, like the local hospitals and so forth. I'm really kind of cheesed that this government, for example, opened up. When I say this government, I mean New York State government opening up the benefits so that people can go to eat at restaurants and so forth, because that's not the healthiest food. Do you know what I mean? And I know they think they're killing two birds with one stone, but we talked about this before. This doesn't really teach people how to eat better. Anyway, I'm going to not even get into that subject because that's just another pet peeve of mine. And we've kind of run out of time anyway. So remember, people, you only have one life and one body. Do your best to. By the way, Lou, I have noticed that you were very quiet through this whole thing. But
I was
you're not.
from the first segment. So
You were talking. Okay. All
I've
right.
gone through withdrawal now. Now I'm really the shakes and
Okay. All right. So you got to do your best to make it count. So your years are full of life and your life is full of health. Information equals transformation, people. So take the small steps each day and you'll see a difference. I am sure of it. All right, guys. Well, it's been real. I've got a boogie. I know you guys have to boogie too. Thank you. You've been wonderful as always.
All right. That sounds great. I will see you next week.
All right. Next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
I
Thanks for listening to Urban Health Weekly today. I hope you'll join me and my friends next week so you can stay informed and inspired to take control of your health. See you next time.